Nau mai kake mai, piki mai rā, a whakatau mai rā no, ki tō tātou nei kōrero. We've got an awesome panel assembled here for your afternoon. Now, I'm wary that you have all just been in a panel, in a workshop kōrero, but for us it's sort of still the post-lunch slump, which happens in these things, right? We've been off talking in a room. Me mihi mai o hā anō kia koutou e hui ana mai nei. Thanks all of you for gathering here today. Tēnei taku mihi mai o hā kia koutou. My awesome, great thanks to you all for coming to listen to our conversation. We joked before that we may well be in a situation where only a couple of people want to hear from us, don't know. Alas, no, we've got some tables, which is good, and some really good-looking people, so thank you again for coming along. This conversation is all about leading change together, and in a moment I'll introduce our fabulous panellists. Perhaps I should introduce myself. I'm Nate Whitfield. I think Curtis did just say, although I was busy pouring water, I'm here probably because I'm on the board with Volunteering New Zealand, Tū Aotearoa. I spoke a couple of years ago at the, was it still called the Changemakers Hui back then? Oh, right. In 2023. And so I think I met a couple of you there. I see Rochelle there. And that was really my introduction to Aotearoa and to the people, many of the people in this room and in our sector and in this space. We do such cool stuff. You all do such cool stuff. And the reason that this conversation's been put into the mix for today's Hui agenda is because of two things. People always say change is the only constant, right? And we've reflected that volunteering is an inherent act of leadership. And so we want to bring those two thoughts together to have a conversation with our stacked panel about how we can together lead change. And I made the mistake when preparing of framing it, didn't I, Mo, as leading through change. And I was going to ask you all, a bit of audience interaction, what has been the biggest change that you've experienced? We're not framing it that way. What we're doing instead is talking about how, as volunteers and how, as leaders of volunteers, we drive change. And because volunteering is, as I say, an act of leadership, it's inherent to volunteering, it's leading by example. Tuao, as Michelle said earlier, we're here to talk about what that means, and we're going to do it through these three inspiring wahine and their stories and their backgrounds. So I'll grab the bios because I only met two of them last week and one of them half an hour ago. So, to my right, Natalia Sexton here. Natalia of Ngāti Kahungunu and Rongo Mai Wahine has held leadership and governance roles across the private, public and not-for-profit sectors. Is there even another sector in which you could hold roles? I don't know. She brings extensive expertise in complex multi-sector partnerships and collaborations in funding, philanthropy and equity. Natalia has an ability to build authentic relationships across diverse sectors, which has enabled impactful and whānau-centred and community-led solutions. At the heart of all of her mahi, paid, unpaid, in any of those sectors, is manaakitanga and whakawhanaungatanga. And we'll get into that, won't we, Natalia? That's me. We'll skip me. Lupe Sena joins us today, a proud daughter of Samoa and Tokelau from the villages of Lufi in Opulu, Salelolonga in Savai, and Atafu in Tokelau. Is that right? While completing her studies, a BCom and a Bachelor of Engineering honours, conjoint. Woo! Have you completed that? Yeah. Oh, paki for that. Hōmai te paki. Good on you. I'm sort of scraping through an honours at the moment, and that's mihi to you, my friend. Lupe coordinated the St Vincent de Paul, or Vinnie's Food Bank, during lockdowns, packing food parcels, supporting facilitation of an online youth leadership program, and coordinating drivers to deliver the essentials to the most vulnerable in our communities. What inspiring work. And today, Lupe is on the board for Vinnie's Tamaki Makoto Trust, supporting the risk and youth portfolios. Nau mai ki kia koe. And Momita, here in the middle, is a cross-industry marketer, so a bit of a different perspective from Mo, with a wealth of marketing and communications experience in iconic global organisations. She joins us today from Dulux, don't you? She's been recognised as a LinkedIn top voice and a creator to follow. She's a prolific content creator who passionately engages in diversity and inclusion, social impact, and volunteering conversations. You'll find Mo at the crossroads of innovation and impact, creativity and purpose, and her multicultural work environments and travels across 7 continents. Through her work and her volunteering, enrich her storytelling, so her contributions today will be apparently relatable and versatile. No, I know they will be, because we've had an awesome chat so far, haven't we? Cool. We'll get into it, eh? Can we have another round of applause for our awesome panel? Right, ko wai koutou. Shall we... You look eager and ready to go, Natalia. I'm wondering, to start the conversation, because we all sort of need to know what brings these people to our conversation today. That's why I introduced them with a bio, right? So you know a little bit about why we might have chosen them for the panel. But I'm interested, before the conversation gets into the meat, as to what your positionality is. What's the framing through which you'll be viewing some of what we're saying? Like, where do you come from? What brings you here? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, kia ora koutou katoa. You did such a brilliant job before, Nate, talking about some of the broad experience I have. I guess what brings me here today is the kaupapa. So I'm definitely a kaupapa-driven person, and a big admirer of the work of Volunteering New Zealand. I think the contributions that we make every day outside of our paid work are so valuable. So when the opportunity came to be part of this panel, I was really, really excited to be here and stuff. So yeah, that's what brings me to... Oh, and I wear lots of hats. You'll get to hear from me later on. So today I thought it would be good to talk from a trustee's perspective, a director's perspective, about what we bring to that table in a volunteering capacity. So at the moment I sit on the boards of Fair Food New Zealand and also Te Whare Ruruhau o Miri Trust.
Kia ora. Kia ora, my name is Momita. My friends call me Mo. And I think the lens that I will bring in today is starting from where you are with what you have. And thank you. So I will talk about leading through purpose, leading through change, of perspectives, of narrative, of changing stereotypes. I am a migrant. I moved to New Zealand 6 years back, and today I'm a citizen. And I'm going to talk about listening to this common refrain of having no Kiwi experience and now translating that into creating a Kiwi identity and how volunteering has helped me achieve that. So I'm going to talk about that. And we often, when we talk about volunteering, we say things like, we are paying it forward, we are doing it to someone. But we often don't acknowledge what we get back in return. So I'm going to really talk about what I have got back in return. And I literally have a list, you know. I have a list of things that I wrote down that I have got back from volunteering, and it's run past like 2 pages. So I've got board roles, I've got invitations to speak at conferences like these, to write articles. I have done international travel through volunteer service abroad. I see someone wearing a t-shirt of VSA there. And so many other things. My first referee in the country through my first volunteering role. So I think I'm going to talk about all of that tonight. Kia ora.
Kia ora. And I'll add, Mo, that I noted something like volunteering 6 years ago played a role in your social integration to Aotearoa. but perhaps a nicer way to put that would be that it helped ground you here, or it gave you that sense of belonging here, right? Made you part of this place. That's cool. Kia ora.
If I could just add, and you started saying, you started using with this word, whakawhanaungatanga. That's what I found when I started volunteering in Aotearoa. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou katoa, Kulupesina tuku ingoa. Thank you, Natalia and Mo. I feel pretty overwhelmed to be up here on this panel with two amazing wahine, and also in this room with all of you and the mahi that you're doing in your own spaces. So thank you for having me and for sharing this space to talanoa and unpack what's going on and how we drive change in our organisations. So I'm here from the lens of the Vinnie's Tamaki Makaurau Trust. I think my frame of reference is that I was raised in a very, very Samoan household. First generation New Zealand-born Samoan daughter of a half Samoan, half Tokelau father, and then a full Samoan mother. So that already, that puts things in perspective for me growing up here in New Zealand. And also in my frame of reference is my faith background, being Catholic, and my involvement with the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. So I guess I'm here because the general manager for Vinnie's emailed me like months ago, said, hey, Volunteer New Zealand said that we can have a panel spot. Do you want it? And she goes, actually, you should go do it. So go do it. I said, okay. And so me saying yes and me saying okay has probably opened up the most opportunities throughout my very short time on Earth. And I think that's really exciting. But in terms of Vinnie's, what it really highlighted for me is like leadership through service. There's a very famous Samoan proverb, ole alele pule ole tautua. So the pathway to leadership is through service. And I think that's what grounds my my sense of obligation to Vinnie's and to other kaupapa that I'm a part of. I shared with the team earlier that to me, every individual has an obligation to serve. Whether you like it or not, you are obliged to give back to this community. And I think that stems from my background, having a very village mentality and being raised in a village, and understanding that even though being on my own and having an individualistic worldview might make me wealthy, it doesn't make me rich, because the richness that comes from my life is from all of these different experiences. So, kia ora, that's me. So hopefully you want to hear from me. Thank you. Back to you, Nate.
If not too late. I'm interested in, and we said before, Lupe, about that obligation to serve. The idea of having an obligation to serve. I asked you before, where does that come from? Can we expand on that? It's cultural. It's in your upbringing. Can we hear more about that? What do you think? Gives you that obligation.
So I think through Vinnie's, actually, I've had a lot of opportunities to reflect on this notion of having this obligation to serve, and it's very much cultural. So growing up in a village means that the moment you're born, you already have your place in the family. You already have, there's a va. I'm not sure if you've heard of the concept of a va, but it's the relationship that you hold with the people around you. And every single dynamic is sacred and beautiful in its own right. But out of each dynamic comes an obligation or an expectation from you. So between me and my brother will be different between me and my sister. My position as the youngest in the family requires certain expectations from me, as in I don't talk back, as in my siblings are my second parents if my parents are not there. So I think being embedded in a very Samoan upbringing and household opened my eyes to, all of us just give everything for each other. That's stock standard. It's not a if you have time, it's not a if you have money, even though sometimes it should be. But so I think, and that's kind of the richness I was talking about as well. So yeah, I think that obligation to serve comes from a very strong cultural upbringing, but then also from a faith perspective, in understanding if you are Christ-like to others, then they can see Christ in you, and that reciprocity is really, really important. And I was telling the team, like, if you're in a village, you don't give because you know they're going to give back. You give because you can, and you give because there is the time to do it. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It does, beautifully put, thank you. And I think that's going to be different in every culture, right? And in different faiths. And even down to individual whānau, will have slightly different takes on whether there's an obligation to serve or what that looks like. I'm interested to hear from you, Mo, around, in particular, I don't actually know from where you migrated, but regardless of that point, what's the difference between, as a migrant, that view of an obligation to serve or the view of service? Is it different coming into Aotearoa?
Similar to what you said, Lupe, and I wish I could bring my 2 younger sisters and make them sit here and listen to you speak how to treat your elder sister. Yeah, thank you. But yes, I am originally from India, and it is very much like this. Service is one of our key prerogatives, but when I moved to Aotearoa, I think I might misquote a statistic, and Curtis, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I've heard you say this percentage before, that in Aotearoa, over 90% people are in some or the other volunteering role. So I don't think it's very different. It's about an individual. New Zealand is a country of volunteers. So coming from India to New Zealand, I haven't seen much difference in that. And then I have found my space. Volunteering has literally raised me in New Zealand. So I cannot deny its huge impact on me.
I'm going to delve into that a little bit more in a moment. I'm interested actually in whether there's much of a statistical difference in terms of the proportion of the population who does volunteer here versus at other countries. It's 53% of New Zealanders volunteer, right? Marg's nodding. It's 97 or something Pacifica, percentage of Pacifica who volunteer here. Yeah? I'm checking with Marg McLaughlin, and she's nodding, so that's good. Right, so regardless, it's a high proportion, right? And I think comparatively high, like if you look internationally, it's high here. Yeah, cool. I feel like we should go to Natalia. Yeah, well, I would like to. Tell us, Natalia, about what your view is on this type of the value of volunteering or the role of service, and maybe that's an Ao Māori perspective.
I just wanted to say tautoko, and I guess that's the brilliant thing about when we bring diverse women from different places together to hear our stories in our own ways, we realise how similar we are. So if I had to, in a really short, sharp way, summarise my view of what these wonderful ladies have been talking about, it's tautoko, whakapapa, and also utu. So this innate part of us in terms of our whakapapa, that it's what we do. And utu, in terms of reciprocity, often is the Pākehā kupu that's used to describe that process of giving and being part of that, but it being woven through who we are, all parts of it. So yeah, completely agree with these ladies as well.
Thanks, Natalia. I'm going to jump back to Mo, because I'm, to be completely honest, I'm surprised that you didn't think there was much of a difference in India as compared to here, in terms of like the societal view of volunteering. But I suppose every culture and every place has volunteering. It might be more structured or more traditional in some places than as compared to others. So that's probably to your point, right? I wonder, what are the differences? So when you came here 6 years ago, did you find it simple and easy just to come in as a volunteer? Or if not, what were the barriers? What were the challenges? What were the biggest changes between volunteering in India and volunteering in Aotearoa?
So my experience of volunteering in India was, I think, also linked to religion. through temples, through gurudwaras, where gurudwaras, the Sikh community in India, they place, I'm not a Sikh, I practice Hinduism, but both these communities place service through religion is of the highest prerogative. But when I moved to New Zealand, I looked at volunteering very strategically through my skills, because I had to find paid work soon. And therefore, my volunteering in New Zealand was focused around the skill set that I could bring. And I will give you an example of how I really got started with my volunteering in New Zealand is, I don't know where Michelle is. So during COVID, when we couldn't travel.
Better places to be.
Yeah.
Michelle, evidently.
The borders were closed, and we even couldn't travel domestic. I put up a post on LinkedIn saying that I have this time in my hand, and I'd like to help some charities and not-for-profits in New Zealand. And I listed, these are all the things that I could do, all my marketing skills, and Michelle reached out to me. And I suggested to her, let's do this campaign, Michelle, where we talk about what volunteering has given us instead of what we have given to volunteering. And she said, yes, amazing idea, let's go ahead and do that. And I think that was the campaign which later on culminated into the next year's National Volunteer Week campaign of Mahi Aroha and Aotearoa of Kindness. So my objective, you could say, I did that to find paid work. I got into volunteering to find paid work for myself, but then I continued with it as and when I found roles where I could offer my skills, offer my services, and also feel more integrated within the society. Travel internationally through VSA, and yeah, I think that would be the differences that I could think of.
Nice, that's cool. Let's continue on the theme of differences, and because the framing of this panel is around change, right, and leading through change. So change means something changes, it means something becomes different. Hence, we'll continue with that line of thought. I'm wondering, Natalia, we talked a little bit earlier about the journey that Fair Food is going on to move to a kaupapa Māori approach. That's a change I'm really interested in, particularly because people in the room will remember, because everyone's always amazed when Paul Spoonley speaks, that the proportion of the population who is Māori is projected to boom over the next generation. And indeed, the percentage of the population today who are Māori is already higher than I think it was some years ago. That's one example of demographic change here, right? So if demographic change is going to be a key concern for the sector, I'm interested, Natalia, in how Fair Food has started on that journey to become kaupapa Māori-led.
Kia ora. Just for those of you who don't know, Fair Food New Zealand's based out in West Auckland. We're a food rescue charity, but we're like the food bank behind the food banks, as our GM likes to say, where we've got 70 charitable partners. And so basically we take kai that's going to be thrown out and put into landfill and get it out to whānau in our communities. How we've ended up on that journey, if anyone knows anything about West Auckland, our population and our whānau out there got such a high population who are Māori. So part of our plan in terms of becoming a kaupapa Māori organisation was to be really deliberate in the recruitment of who we put on our board and making sure our strategy aligns with our future direction and needs of our community. So we've got a strategy, it's called Toi, what did we end up calling it? Toi Ora, and our strategic plan's 5 years. And it's got big transformational vision and quite different to what we were doing in the past. But in terms of the role that our volunteers play in our organisation, when we've been getting to know each other, we make sure that our volunteers are like part of us. They're like our whānau, they are our whānau. So everyone who becomes part of our kaupapa has this innate sense of belonging and being able to give as and when they can. So we've got really high retention numbers because of that. But I was also talking to our GM about, what from her perspective and our chair as well, why are our volunteering numbers increasing when everyone else's are decreasing? And it's a lot along the lines of making everyone feel welcome, so that manaakitanga aspect of it, but also eliminating the barriers to belonging. So from a DEI perspective, if you were thinking it with that lens, but it's innate within us as Māori to make people feel welcome. Kai is pivotal to everything we do in our Māori. So all we're doing is marrying up what our needs are going forward with what our community hapuni we are wanting in the future. So we're on that journey at the moment. I'm not sure if we'll get there in 5 years. It might be a 10-year thing, but it's been a learning process, very iterative, and sometimes we have to move at the speed of the slowest waka. So we'll make a step forward, and sometimes we'll go back, and it's been a great journey so far, anyway.
Keep that one.
Okay.
Tēnā koe, Natalia, that's cool. And I think what we reflected before, right, was that, for everyone in the room, that's going to be a journey that probably lots of organisations are either looking to begin or, indeed, for those who have begun a journey towards kaupapa Māori approaches, it's going to be more and more important, right, over the next few years. Just because of demographic change, not even because it's the right thing to do, although it is, but because there's going to be no choice in the matter, right? If we as organisations are going to reach our population, that's a journey that we're going to have to go on. I've been given a warning timer. Thanks, Heidi. And there's one thing that's sort of running through my head, which is that the change which we lead through looks very, very different for each person and for each organisation. I just wonder if we could take a moment to turn to our neighbours and just share what has been the most important change that you have led or that you have experienced as a volunteer leader. Just take a moment, turn to your neighbour, share what you think that most important change has been. It might be something that you decided you needed to champion. It might have been something, a directive might have been given to you. What was that most important change? And I'll ask the panellists to share that as well in a moment. I might throw it to the floor. Does anyone have a change that they'd like to share which sticks out to you as having been important or significant in your journey as a volunteer leader? I'm going to have to run to you. Oh, kia ora.
Kia ora, tēnā tātou katoa, ko Leslie Weavers Tuku Ingoa. I am the volunteer coordinator for the maximum security prison up in Albany, Pariamaremo, or Auckland Prison. The major change that I made when I resumed the role 6 years ago was I changed people's mindsets of how they viewed volunteers. So just prior to me was a lovely young lady, Ruth Patterson, who was in the role before me. She basically shoulder tapped me because I have a very decisive management style. I believe that everybody should be treated equally. So the example that I gave the lovely young lady beside me was I have kai whakamana who are Māori cultural kaupapa Māori practitioners who come in and who engage one-on-one with my Māori, because as you all know, we have a high percentage of Māori incarcerated, over 50%. So I would bring a kai whakamana in to my site and I would get the staff to escort her to engage. Usually they would wrap her around, give her exactly what she, support her, tautoko her, awhi her, and take her directly in to see the prisoner. The next day I would have my 80-year-old white literacy tutor from Mount Albert come in and they would make her wait. And that is just not, that does not sit well with me. So the biggest change I made to my site was that everybody, regardless of who they are, will be treated exactly the same. They will have the same respect. We will awhi and we will tautoko, and we will lead by the 5 values that we have. Yeah, and nobody is different. So that is the biggest change, and I will not accept anybody treating any person, regardless of background, ethnicity, culture, different to anybody else. So that's the major change that I made at Auckland Prison. And everybody that comes into my prison, I will awhi, I will provide duty of care, the same as they would an auntie, an uncle, a brother, a sister. So kia ora.
Thanks, Leslie. Now, we did just have a laugh before when Heidi said 3 minutes, but I think the time has well and truly gone off when the doors are thrown open and people start walking in. So feel free to come in, folks. Come in and come back to your seats, that's cool. I'll just wrap up our panel kōrero. Oh, perhaps I shouldn't have said that. I'll just wrap up by saying that in the little pack that I was given to prepare for this, there was a nice line in there which I like to use. He aha te take nui I roto e tō tātou mahi aroha. What's the most important thing in our mahi aroha, or our tuao, our mahi tūhono, the work that we love, the volunteering we do, the work that we do that connects people and communities. It is e whai ana tātou kei roto I ngā pikinga o te ora, kei roto I ngā hāpori o Aotearoa. Mai Aotearoa ki te ao, e mahi tahi ana tātou. We work together, we come together as a collective to make life-changing differences in Aotearoa communities and around the world, to India and beyond, right? So I'll wrap the conversation there and just say thank you for listening and indulging in the beautiful kōrero of this panel of wahine toa. Thank you to Lupe, to Mo, and to Natalia for sharing their stories with us today. I've really enjoyed that, and I hope you've enjoyed it too. Kia ora tātou.